welcome to our English news edition. You're watching Canal Algeria and I'm your host, Karim Zachary. First, the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, presents his heartfelt compassion and sincere condolences to the family of the deceased Mehdi Serbah, the former legendary soccer goalkeeper of the national soccer team. African Union's Peace and Security Council adopts the proposal of President Tebboune, which aims at creating a continental civil force to prevent disasters and ensure the necessary support to the affected African countries. And later on, we dive into national memory in Iran, where torture centers still hold martyrs' remains under the debris, and a reburial operation of 22 martyrs. In Miliana, the Association of Hikers, Miliana and the Medical Specialist Association decided to meet to close the National Breast Cancer Awareness Campaign. Good evening again and welcome to your English news. First, in today's top stories, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, presented his heartfelt compassion and sincere condolences to the family of the deceased Mehdi Serbah, the former legendary soccer goalkeeper of the national soccer team. He extended his condolences to the whole family, or the whole football family, praying Allah Almighty to welcome him in his vast paradise. The reburial of the deceased, or the burial of the deceased, will be the late Mehdi Serbah was buried in the Sidi Yahya cemetery here in Algiers, in the presence of his family as well as football and sports figures. The football enthusiasts all over the national territory are mourning the loss of Mehdi Serbah, the emblematic goalkeeper who passed away at the age of 68 following a long illness. Malan Amari has the report.
Mehdi Serbah, one of the best Algerian national football team goalkeepers in Algerian football history, passed away on Friday at the age of 68 after battling a long illness. During his career, the late Mehdi Serbah started as a cadet with USM Algiers Football Club, where he stayed to be promoted to senior at 16, before joining GS Kabylie and then RC Kuba. He became an iconic goalkeeper with a lasting impression, notably with the gold medal won against France at the 1975 Mediterranean Games, and the memorable victory against Germany during the 1982 World Cup. Between 2001 and 2003, he was the technical director of Algeria's national football team, as well as coach for goalkeepers for several Arab football clubs.
Mehdi Serbah was one of the greatest football goalkeepers who participated in 2 World Cups. I would like to extend my sincere condolences to his family. May Allah the Almighty have mercy of his soul.
On this sad day, Algerian football enthusiasts are mourning the loss of this legendary goalkeeper.
The Peace and Security Council of the African Union, AU, adopted at its meeting held on Friday at the level of the heads of state and government the proposal of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, which aims at creating a continental civil force so as to prevent disasters in order to ensure effective and real-time care and also provide the necessary support to the affected African countries. This proposal was presented by the Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Amtal Mamra, who participated in this meeting as a representative of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. Lamamra recalled that African countries are among the ones the most exposed to the increasingly growing risks of disasters and extreme climatic phenomena, adding that Africa, which is not responsible for the appearance and the worsening of climate change, must make its voice heard during the next UN conference on climate change. Let's have a listen.
This is indeed a serious matter that deserves our full attention and which entails a collective action from all of us in the spirit of solidarity and mutual support. While the global focus is still maintained on the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change and related disasters have exponentially increased in frequency, magnitude, and impact. Algeria expresses its full solidarity with all African countries that have been hit hard or are under the greatest threat of this phenomenon. From our respective individual experiences, it has abundantly become clear that a continental approach and response to managing the risks is not only appropriate, but also, and most importantly, necessary. Let us continue to work together. Let us continue to work together to address all the challenges that could impede us from achieving the Africa we want. I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you.
The President of the Constitutional Council, Kamal Fanish, participated in the 18th European Conference Electoral Administrations, which took place on Friday via video conference. Kamal Fanish made an intervention on the conduct of electoral operations in Algeria in the context of the coronavirus pandemic and the measures taken in favor of women and vulnerable groups. The Algerian state spared no effort to reduce the socioeconomic impact of the pandemic on Algerian citizens. A reburial ceremony of the remains of 22 martyrs was organized on Friday at the level of Martyrs Square of Hassaniya and Boutlilis municipalities in Oran in the presence of Mujahideen Minister of Mujahideen Al-Eid Arbiqa. In his speech on the occasion, the minister underlined that this ceremony is part of the festivities of the 67th anniversary of the outbreak of the November 54 revolution, commemorated under the high patronage of the President of the Republic. The minister announced that this campaign, launched on Friday from Oran province, will allow the reburial of the remains of more than 1,000 martyrs throughout the national territory. Behind a facade that glorifies liberty and humanity, other martyrs' remains are still under the debris of French torture centers, where the French authorities mastered the art of torture, hoping to break down the Algerian revolutionary spirit. Armanel Maafa prepared this report. Let's follow.
Torture has been a common technique used by the French military during the French occupation in Algeria, not only to spread fear among innocent civilians, men, women and children alike, or to bring down the morale of the National Liberation Army. It was also a bloody and inhumane act to obtain intelligence, break strikes and so on. If the walls of these torture centers could speak, the echoes of the screams of despair and torment of Algeria's independence war valiant martyrs could be heard, who despite the suffering chose death over surrender. Drowned, hanged, assaulted, skinned alive or electrocuted, no man, woman or child was spared. These techniques are the embodiment of the French colonizers' hatred towards innocent Algerian civilians, a hatred enacted by such acts of torture, systematically enforced by the French military. Many decades later, these horrendous state crimes against humanity are still unpunished till this day. France still has not confessed to one of its most hideous crimes in the history of humanity, despite the truth having been unveiled to the whole world.
Moving to startup funding now, this year's funding review shows that 400 million dinars in 48 innovative and promising projects has been wired. The minister delegate in charge of knowledge economy and startups reminded that it is now possible to request funding via asf.dz platform. Here's our own Melissa Kubash with more.
The Startup Financing Fund has finally been launched, allowing the investment of 400 million dinars in 38 innovative and promising projects. These young entrepreneurs stood up to several challenges and made their dream a reality, thanks to the Algerian Fund for the Financing of Startups.
In our project, we choose to use artificial and electronic intelligence. It is a system that allows the driver to be more careful on the road and warns him in case of danger.
More than 60 innovative projects have been chosen to be financed by the National Fund for the Financing of Startups.
عندنا أكثر من 247
More than 247 young people submitted their projects for funding. 65 projects were selected and are in progress.
في طريق لا كونكريتيزاسيون
الحصول على التمويل لصالح شركات الناشئين.
Thanks to the National Fund for Financing Startups, young entrepreneurs can now easily obtain funding.
جاء هذا الصندوق ليسد هذا الفراغ.
A digital platform has been launched and put at the disposal of young entrepreneurs seeking to launch their own innovative projects.
Let's head now to the province of Bashar, where drought is remarkably noticed in the dam of Jorf Turba, where the water level dropped and can easily be seen. So as to spare the inhabitants water caps, the officials of the sector initiated a project to transfer water from the Busir well. Rania Al-Bahari reports.
With a retention capacity of more than 300 million cubic meters, the Jorf Turba Dam is the main source of drinking water supply and irrigation water to agricultural lands in Bashar province, southern Algeria. The dam has reached its lowest level, causing concern among the populations of the region. Why must we always rely on Jorf Turba Dam? Bashar province has water potential that must be exploited. We must find a long-term solution to the problem of water shortage. If this dam dries up, all the residents of Bashar province will suffer from drought. We can no longer rely on this dam. Other solutions must be found to alleviate the lack of drinking water in the region. The large-scale transfer project of underground water from Busir region's well field to those of Bashar will be received and put into service in February 2022 through a network of pipelines of more than 190 kilometers and with a capacity of 30,000 cubic meters per day.
This project has reached a progress rate of 87%. The largest part has been done. There are still 4 pumping stations. All the necessary equipment will be provided. The project will be entrusted to an Algerian company, as the contract with the previous water supply company, who was in charge of the project, was terminated.
The Sahrawi army carried out new attacks against the Moroccan occupation forces in the sector of Mahbas, according to the Sahrawi Defense Ministry. It's worth mentioning that the attacks are still ongoing since Thursday against the Moroccan forces, who suffered considerable human and material losses along the Wall of Shame. Moving on now to the Security Council, which decided to extend the mandate of the United Nations mission for the referendum in Western Sahara Minorso for an additional year until October 31, 2022. Still in the Sahrawi file, the North African Program Director of the International Crisis Group, Rodrigo Fabiani, estimated that the military presence of the Moroccan occupation in the buffer zone separating the Western Sahara and Morocco hinders the possibility of re-establishing the ceasefire with the Polisario Front. The European Deputy and President of the Peace Group of the Sahrawi People, Andrea Shida, affirmed that the question of Western Sahara needed a political solution after the historic decision of the European Union's Justice Court on September 29th. And this is just at a press conference on the eve of the opening of G20 summit in Rome. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called on the Sudanese army to exercise restraint during protests expected in Khartoum on Saturday. Moving on to sports now, the results of the second day of the national championship are as follows. GS Kabylie against Sétif drew 0-0 with US Biskra dominated the fixture against GS Saura 2-1. NC Magras and MC Algiers had a draw, and Ghilizan won against Tlemcen 2-1. In Milyana province, the Association of Hikers Milyana and the Medical Specialist Association AMSAD decided to meet to close the National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Patients and their family, as well as specialist doctors, were invited to participate in a hike in the forest of Bni Allal to encourage healthy practices. Here's Ines Kalou with the details.
The Breast Cancer Awareness National Month is coming to an end, but it doesn't mean the end of awareness raising against this insidious disease. That's why the Association of Mountain Hikers of Milyana, the Association of Specialist Doctors AMSAD, and Al Fajr Association have taken the initiative to make a last tour to raise awareness and help people with cancer, like these women accompanied by their husbands and children who are taking the path towards healing from breast cancer.
Donc, on est là pour participer à la randonnée.
We are here to take part of this walk to raise awareness and tell them that breast cancer is a disease that can be detected at the beginning, and tell them that it is important to also take this opportunity to screen for any early signs and to have regular mammograms done.
Profiter de cette opportunité, faire ces examens, faire ces mammographies régulièrement.
Some patients suffer from nosophobia, which means the fear of catching a disease, which causes them not to do any screening. Today, we are here to help them overcome their fear and encourage them to do it.
For some, this challenge is the first of its kind in the region. It is a path to treatment, and according to some doctors, it also contributes to the fight against nosophobia. And to overcome this disease, these women are ready to raise the challenge.
Cette randonnée est une première dans notre région.
This initiative is the first of its kind in our region, and we wanted to celebrate the occasion and especially close this month with this special event.
Un peu spécial.
Breast cancer awareness is not limited to the month of October. For these courageous women, the fight against this disease is a life-saving struggle.
This is the end of our news. Thank you for tuning into our program, and good night.